So everybody wants to know, how long will one of these run, and do you need a fan to do it? So today I've got two full-size Smokeslingers. We're gonna run one with a fan and one without. We're gonna run the same fuel, and we're gonna do one port butt on each one. Okay, so this full size here is gonna be pit A, and it's gonna be running natural draft, no fan. But I do have my FireBoard temperature probes in there. One is gonna read the cooking grate temp, and one is gonna read the internal temperature of the meat. And this one is pit B. I've got the fan adapter plate installed, along with the fan, and my FireBoard controller will be monitoring the ambient temp here, which will be controlling the fan. And then I've got a meat probe that will stick in the pork butt. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna light both of these pits at the same time using the same amount of charcoal, and we're gonna log that on the FireBoard control on a graph. And what you'll be able to see towards the end of this video, you'll be able to see those lines laying cleanly on top of each other. So you'll be able to see like what a fan does actually add to your experience on a full-size smoke slinger or a mini. Now on the other hand, I know that the full size without the fan is gonna run fine on its own. I've done this cook so many times I can't even explain it to you. So what happens is it actually has more of a gentle curve and an arc. That's kind of what I'm expecting in this cook. And then the other one with the fan, it's just gonna like go straight up. It's gonna get to temp faster. It's gonna flatline, and it's gonna have a much longer cook probably. Those are my predictions before I ever light these pits. So if you've watched my channel for too long, you already know that I'm not really a numbers guy. I don't really pay a lot of attention to thermometers, and you never see me using a digital readout. However, I do feel that data collection is very important. It's a really important thing to guys that are trying to figure out if this will work for them. So the reason we're doing this is to give you the data. However, I do know for sure that the full-size smoke slinger will run this cook on its own, and we'll probably get around 6 to 7 hours before I've got to maintain the fire. So getting on into setting up this test. We're gonna get to the charcoal here in a minute, but the one thing I want to tell you how much detail I'm going to make sure that this comes out with proper data, right? This is like a unicorn moment. I never see this, but this pork butt is 11.21 pounds. This one is 11.20 pounds. That's like ridiculous that they're within 1 ounce or 1/10 of an ounce of each other. And you can tell that because they're only 2 cents apart on the price. So I haven't touched these butts yet. We're just gonna do a really simple prep today. And by the way, shout out to my friends, Hey Grill Hey. I'm using the sweet rub today. And now let's talk about the charcoal. Okay, so this is our insert. We're pulling those out today. We're gonna run what's called Minion method. Not gonna go into a lot of detail on it, but if you're old school like me, you totally know where Minion method came from, and you know how it works. So you'll see me light this up here in a minute. But what we're doing is I've got this scale here, and this is a refrigerant scale. My background refrigeration, this thing does like thousandths of an ounce or something like that. So I know it's accurate. So we're just gonna turn this on, and I'm gonna put the drawer on the scale, like that. We're gonna hit the tare button, so it's at 0. So now we're gonna weigh our charcoal, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna fill it from the back to the front, and we're gonna leave a little bit of an opening at the very front. What'll happen is air will go inside the inlet right here from the pinwheel damper on the front, and it'll slowly start to burn itself back like a fuse. We're gonna do that on both of these cookers. I'm leaving a space in the front because I've got some charcoal chimneys over here we're gonna light, and that's what we're actually gonna dump in here. We're using some charcoal from right down the street, timber charcoal. Anyway, if you never heard of it, give my buddy Todd a call. You can get it some places. This is just lump that's made here in mid-Missouri. So we got 8 pounds of charcoal in this drawer, and what we're gonna do is dump the chimney in here with it in the pit, and then I'm gonna shove this over to kind of get it more of an even burn. But I've got it mounted up here in the back right now. And just so you know, we did zero out the scale before we added it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this back in the cooker. Okay guys, so I talked a little bit about it on the last video I did. Make sure if you haven't already, go back and watch the video about how to install this adapter plate. That shows you how to put the fan on your smoke slinger pit. Now, the other thing is the fan's already running full bore. It's at like 58%. fan, and I've already, because I've had the door open with no fire in there, but I've got the graph picking right now. It looks like it was probably about 10 minutes after 9 this morning on the graph whenever I put the fire in just now. So I've got the drawer slid in, no vents are open on anything yet. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open the exhaust. We're in offset mode today, so everything's gonna go up and go that way. I'm gonna open the exhaust on this side, and I'm gonna do that probably about half on both of them. My target temperature today is gonna be 275. Now before I shut this fan down and give this one an unfair advantage, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the exhaust on the other pit. This door is open also at the same time. We're running this damper about right around the same, just a little bit more open maybe, because it is natural draft. I'm gonna have to have a little bit more room for airflow for this thing to make 275. I'm gonna go ahead and shut this door first. And now I'm opening up this air inlet. I know to run 275, I'm gonna have to start out with this intake all the way open for a little while. Then I'm gonna come back and close it to about half. So right now it's all the way open. And this one here, the fan's already running. It's gonna start coming up to temp pretty quick. There we go. Now we're just gonna let Mother Nature take over. I can already hear it cracking and popping in here and going on, but both pits are set for offset mode and exact same number of tuning plates and the whole bit. So we're probably gonna take one more visit back here after I put the pork on. Okay guys, so I've got the FireBoard already connected. You've already seen how I got everything set down here right now. We're getting ready to put this pork on, but one thing real quick, I just wanted to visit with you about what I'm doing on the pork cook. I'm not really like trying to get this amazing pulled pork in this video. This video is more about the performance of the pit rather than the pork itself. But just so the guys out there asking, these are Prairie Fresh natural pork butts. That's my favorite pork so far that you can just run to the store and get. It's some kind of a heritage breed cross. Go look them up. It's good stuff. I'm using rub, like I said earlier, from my friends over at Hey Grill Hey. We're using their sweet barbecue rub. They got 2 of them, sweet rib rubbing. We're using sweet barbecue rub today. Love the color this does on pork butts. My plan right now, since we're in offset mode, we're gonna be cooking on the top rack. And because I already know how that air goes on the top of that lid, I'm gonna put my fat cap up today. Another reason I want that is because I just wanna see what that does on the fat cap without scoring this thing. I just wanna see how that performs. So right now, we're coming up to temp. It's already 148 on the natural draft, which we already said it's gonna come up a little slower. The fan side is gonna have a sharper temperature climb. It's already at 205 on the ambient, so coming along nicely. I think I'm gonna go ahead and put this pork on though, so I don't mess up the graph as we go. So let's do that real quick. Okay guys, so we're putting it on the natural draft, no fan assist pit first, which is pit A. What I'm gonna do is put the money muscle side away from the heat, and I'm gonna stick this probe. Let's see where we wanna go. I don't wanna hit the bone. Let's just go right here for the meat probe. And I'll set it next to about 1 inch away from that pit probe right there. Now we're gonna shut her down. Okay guys, here's pit number 2. Now something important that I talked on the other video about is what to do with this door when you open and shut this lid because of barometric pressure and all of that in fancy words. What I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna open this door so that the blow of this door doesn't blow the heat back into my fan. Now I'm gonna open this door. We're gonna set this one up identical. Money muscle away from the heat, probe in the same location, and we're about 1 inch away from that ambient probe. Now here's the important part. When you close this door, it's gonna push air down, which is gonna blow through your charcoal basket into the fan. That melts the blades on your fan. According to Wendy at FireBoard, and I was a refrigeration man, I know she's right. So I did that. Now I can slowly close this door and I won't get all that heat coming back on my fan. Okay guys, one more time for the camera and for you guys watching. This is the natural draft pit, it's pit A. This one over here is the fan assisted pit, and that's pit B. Pork is on, everything's gonna settle in now. We're just gonna watch what our temperatures are doing because I wanna get them both reasonably close to the same temperature. On the natural draft pit, this is where you're gonna spend most of your time if you're looking for a long burn. You want to make sure that you take your time, get your meat on early. Don't be in a rush to get your meat on. The more you can keep that lid closed, the longer your burn is going to be. and it's going to be more stable on both pits, as you'll see as we go through this cook. Now, on the natural draft pit, we're going to have a slower come up to temp, and when we get there, it's not really going to like stop and flatten. On this pit with the fan assist, you're going to see that thing just level out, and it's going to just stay there because we've got a fan that's doing all the thinking, a controller that's doing all that. Over here, Mother Nature's in control. So we might get a little bit of a spike. We may get over 275, and then we may close our dampers just a little bit and start to kind of coast down. And you may see more of a gradual coast as we go down longer in the cook. Now, I'm not a numbers guy, so that doesn't bother me at all when especially with something like a pork butt or a brisket. All right, guys, we're gonna do a little check-in real quick here. So since I put the pork butts on, I've not opened the lids. I've not opened up the firebox drawers at all. Only made one change, and it was about, I don't know, I got to read because I can't see my thing here. It was about just about 10:15, 10:20 or so on the graph. It's about an hour after I started everything up. I closed the damper down to half on the one that's running natural draft, but I left the exhausts set where they were. Now, the reason I did that is because we got up to about 270 degrees on the temperature probe that I'm monitoring, and I wanted this thing not to overshoot too high. Well, coincidentally, because I've done this so much and I kind of already know where to set things, when I set it exactly in the spot where it like flatlined at 275, 276. As a matter of fact, right now it's at 275 exactly. The fan-driven probe is about 276, and I've been watching it. It goes up a little bit, it goes down a little bit, but it never gets below 273. I haven't seen it get below that, and I haven't seen it get above like 277, but it's been locked in pretty much the same. Internal temperature on the pork butts right now are both within a couple of degrees of 60 degrees. I think the natural draft one is at 59 degrees, and the one on the fan assist is at 63.7. So we're right there. This is a really solid cook. Let's just see how much longer this thing will go. So it's been 5 hours and 24 minutes right now. And I'm not sure if we got the screen, you know, you can see the screen or not. And I've made a couple of notes. Earlier in the reason I'm leaving the fan run right now is because earlier in the video, or I'm sorry, earlier in this session, I turned off the fan. Well, that changed my conditions in here. And so both of these cookers started to kind of climb up. Of course, the one that's fan driven recovered very quick, but the natural draft cooker did make it up around 290 something. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but it was around 290 something. So what I had to do is turn the fan back on. I had to damper some things down, and you'll see some little dots on that line right there that kind of spiked and goes down. And those are all notes of my cook. I really like that function of this app so we can record like what's happening. But anyway, what I did is I turned the fan back on. I dampered down the cooker on the natural draft side because it was spiking. And then I got on the phone because I've got to do work and while I'm cooking here. I wish I could just sit around and drink beer, but that doesn't happen. So anyway, I had to damper it down. I got on the phone, I forgot, it got down around 260 something, 265 or so, I think. And then ever since then, it had to recover back up. So I didn't go in, like a lot of guys might have went in there. Let's just keep it honest. A lot of guys might have went in there and tried to fake the situation and try to make it work out. I chose not to do that because this is a test of like a real life cook. Truth be told, you're gonna have to deal with a fire. I don't care if it's on the full size with a fan or the full size without a fan. It doesn't matter. You're gonna have to deal with it at some point. As a matter of fact, we're probably gonna open the lid here in a little bit and wrap anyway. So right now we're, like I said, almost 5.5 hours in, and we're starting to lose. You can see that graph is starting to kind of go down on the full size with natural draft, no fan. So all we got to do, this is the super easiest thing in the world. I'm going to show you exactly how to take a rake, tongs, whatever it is that you have handy, and scrape all of those coals to the front of the drawer. And then you just refill the back. Boom, we're right back in action. So in my mind, that is real minimal fire management. But For the sake of the test, I'm not gonna do nothing with the fan. I'm gonna let the fan control unit just sit here and run. So we're just gonna get a really good comparison of like true long burn cooking with and without a fan. So without further ado, let's get into this thing and I'll go ahead and move the fire around and stuff. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the coals in the very back and I'm gonna pull all of this forward up into here because that's where our air's coming in. And I just use a shovel. And be careful, because if you get this shovel in there just right, you'll pull the drawer out and you don't want to do that. Just be careful and you don't have to get it perfectly clean. Just pull out what you can. Now I'm going to put more charcoal in there. Now I know historically that if I run this damper right at halfway open or a little bit less, we're going to kind of coast in right around 275, especially if I don't turn the fan off. So that's about 50% right there. All I got to do now is sit over there at my desk and keep working and just kind of watch the temperature to see if it starts to go back up or starts to taper down. Very small, very simple adjustment and a little bit of patience and time. And we'll be right back where we want to be. I didn't do anything with the exhausts yet. They've been locked right where they were the entire cook. So anyway, once those butts get up a little bit more in temperature, we'll take a look at them. Okay guys, so now we're gonna go ahead and set back in and just see where this goes. Now, I think it's totally fair that I just topped off that other drawer right now because our temperature was going down around 252 and I had to get it back up to temp. So suffice it to say, without a fan, you're probably gonna wind up doing something about 5 hours in if you're burning in this scenario with like 100% lump charcoal and pretty calm conditions. There's no crosswinds going through here. It's about a 80 degree, 85 degree day to day. Humidity is about normal. It's not really that crazy. So, you know, anyway, running with temperatures like this in these kind of conditions, it's a pretty stable environment. Okay guys, so here we are. It's been almost 8 hours and that's really important number. It's like actually 7 hours and 45 minutes. The fan driven pit right now is running about 262. So I haven't looked, but I'm almost positive that is at the same situation that this other one was a little bit ago. When most of the drawer was laying flat in there, it wasn't all piled up, which, you know, almost 8 hours on a burn like this without touching it at all is pretty impressive to me. And the graph is almost level. It's pretty impressive to look at this graph here. Now the pork butt on there is internal temperature 165.7 degrees internal, which this one on this pit, the smoker's running 268. I've kind of just left it alone. I just left the damper set where it was. It's been running about 270, 272, 268, something like that. But the internal temp on the pork is 164. So even though there's a little bit of a temperature difference between both pits, and even though there's a little bit of a performance difference, both of those butts are finishing about the same temperature. Now I have not lifted the lid and shown anything or looked at these butts. We're gonna go ahead and wrap while we're at it. But specifically what we gotta do now is we gotta go ahead and refuel this pit because I know at 165, we're just now getting to the point where I can wrap. We could have ran this hotter and probably finished earlier, which normally I'm about an 8 hour cook on pork. I just don't want to mess around with it. I want to see a really long burn. That's why we're running a lower temperature. So right now I'm going to go ahead and switch over here. I'm going to go ahead and pull all that coal bed forward like I did on the other cooker, and we're going to get this thing ready to roll. Then we're going to wrap. Exactly what I thought. So the coal bed is pretty much burned up in here. We got a little bit on this side, which is kind of normal. The fan's blowing straight ahead. We got a little buildup over here. That's a lot of coals. So all we got to do is bring this forward now. And like I did last time, we're just using a shovel. And like I say, be really careful. You don't want to pull this drawer out. You just want to just take and just lightly pull all of this forward. It ain't going to hurt a thing to leave some back there. There we go. Looks pretty good. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pull some of this over to the side here. You can just kind of eyeball it, see what you think with it. Now we're going to go ahead and add some charcoal to that. Good to go for another almost 8 hours probably. So we got a little bit of a split right here, and it's been rendering. It's doing pretty good. You could literally just flip this right now and let it run. If you wanted, you could mop it, but we're just gonna go ahead and wrap it. And that was way down inside like that. So I'm gonna probably put it in the same place, just a little bit different direction. That's what the bottom looks like. So we're getting lots of airflow. So we're gonna leave the bottom up this time, fat cap down. And I'm not gonna get all crazy and inject a bunch of stuff in here and all of that. So that's our money muscle side right here. Stick it back in. This thing here, wrap it tight like that, it ought to do really well. And that probe's in about the same place. Shut this one down. Now remember what I said earlier, leave your door open on your fan when you close the lid, so all that fire that we just pulled forward doesn't blow into your fan. Here we go. Leave that alone, let's go to the next one. It's almost exactly the same cook. Oh my gosh, same split right in the middle. You can see render coming out the side right here where that bone's at. This is gonna be a great pork butt. Okay, so that was exciting. We just went ahead and wrapped those pork butts and stuff, and then I turned around and looked at the controller and it was dead. You know, that's one of those reasons why I used to have a thing, I always said cut the cord, you know, get away from electronics and stuff. Anyway, it's not as big of a deal as it sounds. In this case, we were wrapping pork butts, we had the fans open, where the doors open and stuff, it's not a big deal. But I always worry about the handshake on that session because we're recording, and I just went over there and checked and it's totally fine. So a little word to you, make sure you're paying attention to extension cords, batteries, all the junk that comes along with it. I really honestly, this pit over here, or neither one of them really fell down on their face. It's just the recording session kind of lost its way, but we're back. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and let these things cook. I'm not gonna look at this again until I see that pulled pork temperature, the internal temperature of that pork, coming up somewhere around 194, 196. That's about what I'm shooting for a done temperature. And then we'll talk about our experience. Okay guys, final check-in in the video. And this is a pretty exciting moment for me. We're gonna kind of go over the results a little bit. Now, you're not gonna be able to see my phone. I'm gonna be reading this, but we do have a screenshot that Joe's gonna put overlay. It's somewhere on this video. I don't know where, Joe, you'll just have to figure that out. But anyway, I am probably going to export a screenshot of this at some point and put it somewhere that in the a link in the description. That way you can click on it and go examine it for yourself. It doesn't cost me anything to keep this link live in my dashboard. That's one good thing about FireBoard or any of these other guys. Flame Boss does it. A lot of these guys have a dashboard you can use. And so you can share your cooks. You know, it's not specific just to them. I just happen to have the app. That's my controller. So here we go. Let's talk about it. So right now, the fan is running about 3% on this unit. It's basically flatlined the entire cook, with one exception when I opened the lid and we did the refuel part, and then we did we wrapped those pork butts and stuff. Of course, we dipped way down. I noted that you can see little decimal points, like little yellow dots, at least on my phone, where those events changed, you know, and I was very careful to note those. The pit right now is still running 275.7, and like I said, back on at 350, so that was 3 hours ago, or 2.5 hours ago, is when we refilled it. So it's still just like flatlined right now. Now on the other Smokeslinger, let's see, when did I do that? I tended fire at 135. So that was, let's see, how long ago was that? 135 at 6:18. So it's about 4 hours ago, something like that. And it's basically ran really, really good. We're up to that 4 hour, 5 hour mark right now, and it's starting to taper off. What I did is I just let it taper off, and I'll tell you why. So the pork butts is why. Pork butt on the full size that's running the fan right now is sitting exactly 198 degrees internal temp. I was going to pull them off at 194, but it takes a little bit of time to get the camera set up and stuff like that. On this side here, we got up to 203. We're at 204 right now, which is pretty awesome. So there's a whole lot of ways that you can go about deciding when to pull your pork. Honestly, temperature is like a good guideline. Something I do sometimes is I'll shoot for like 198, 194, 203, 212, depending on what my cook situation is. And what drives that temperature is your cooking chamber temp during the entire cook. If you're cooking at a hotter temperature, you're going to wind up finishing at a higher temperature. Cooking at a lower temperature, you're going to get tender at a lower temperature. So that's kind of the rule we followed here. Since that butt was leading the charge, I went ahead and dampered down just a little bit, just to kind of like, I don't want to continue cooking it past that 203 right now, much more past it. I wanted it to kind of start tapering off, and that's exactly what I did whenever it hit that 200 mark, that 202 mark. So let's go ahead and look and see what the fires look like and make some observations there. So a little Easter egg you guys might have noticed that I've got going on here is I've got an Amazon, just good old cheap tripod here for holding your iPhone, and it just worked perfect for holding this controller. I've been able to move it out of the way if I needed to and stuff and keep it close, but that was just handy in my shop. We're still running about 275 on here, and like I said a minute ago, it was running about 3% fan. Right now it's at 0. Let's see how much more time we could have got out of this. Yeah, so see, we barely got into that drawer. So we're burning up in here, and you can see it's welled out right here, and we're piled on both sides, starting to burn back, and I can see glowing embers back here now that I pulled the drawer out. Just so this doesn't run away, I'm going to shove it back in and close the door down. So we could actually probably cook all night on this thing. Okay, now let's look at the pork butt and see what it looks like. Oh man, that thing is butter. Boy, that fan, it's kicked up now. I'm gonna have to shut this door. That's awesome to me. I'm gonna pull this out. All right, let's look at this other pit. Oh, by the way, that's kind of where I had the damper set pretty much the whole time until I had to like really get it to kick back up or really get it to kick back down. But that was about 275 right there for most of this cook. Now this one burnt different because it doesn't have a fan blowing right in the middle of the fire. It burns a lot more even, a lot more flat. Now, I mean, that's probably 2 inches deep in embers right there. So the concentration of our heat is in the back of this drawer right now, and this is starting to kind of mild down. And that's why, since that's right below this thermometer, and we're on this side of the pit with our probe, that's kind of why it started to read it, let it is like diving. But honestly, we could have probably kept going for another hour or two if we just weren't obsessing about what the number said on the graph. So anyway, here once again, I would probably let this one here roll for a while. So let's look at the pork butts now. Oh yeah, same story. It's just like mush all over. Let's get these things opened up. They smell unbelievably good for just a good old simple pork butt. Let's see, we usually have some bone pull. Oh yeah, that bone just... Look at that. We've got the bone pulling out right here. I mean, this stuff is so freaking hot right now. This is the kind of pork we make out into, around our house, we make this into verde. So now the butts are sitting on the pits they were. So this one here was the one that finished at 203, and you can see the bone pull out. I mean, it's super tender. These things need a rest. I'm not gonna shred into these right now because of that. And they need a long rest, but they also got to cool down some too. Overall, they both look like great pork. I mean, tenderness is there on this one too. We got the bone pull, but not as much bone pull as we do on this one here. And this one here we pulled off at like 197 is what happened. So let me get this glove off. We're going to examine these numbers one more time and just kind of take a final wrap up. So looking at the coal bed, looking at what we did on the fan settings and stuff like that, you know, the natural draft, how fire management went. You know, both of these methods are tried and true, and literally like I was clocked in over there at the table in the office all day long, and just had the screen in front of me. You know, it's helpful to be able to monitor your temperatures and like what the pit's doing and stuff like that. Not gonna lie, that's a great feature to having a fan or even just some kind of digital thermometer. Most of the time, I'm not like so picky on something that I'm gonna just dissect the atom and try to keep that needle, even if I was using an analog thermometer. I'm not gonna try to keep that needle exactly perfect. I've just known for a long time how to run a pit like this with the Minion method, and you can kind of see by the results, yeah, we had a couple of little things, but they were sparse, they were spread way out, and they were I created the problems on that. For instance, early on, whenever I turned off the fan, we had that temperature spike. A fan would not have had that problem. And I mean, it did. You can see it in the graph if you zoom in. but it wouldn't have had that problem. It didn't make a big impact. Anyway, so then I had to recover, and then later in the cook, I had to go ahead and fuel it again, but that's not hard work. Like when we're talking about running a pit, like a big offset or something, you're doing something about every 45 minutes. And truth is, you know as well as I do, you're gonna look anyway because you can't keep your fingers off of stuff. So it's really not that big of a deal to have to monitor a fire and manage it and stuff like that. So overall, both of these methods are still gonna remain in my toolbox. I'm gonna pull them out whenever I have, depending on the situation. The overnight cook, definitely this fan wins because I could have got some sleep and set a couple of alarms. That's awesome. I'm also super excited that we have that fan adapter available now, and it fits all of the different kinds of pits that different blowers that you would have. So anyway, guys, I really appreciate you watching this video. By the way, if you haven't already, make sure you go over to smokeslinger.com and check out the pits. There's also a quote form there. If you fill out that quote form, our sales team will be in touch with you right away. And you know, our lead times are, not going to say what they are right now, that we've been saying 8 weeks, but between you and me, they're faster now, and they're getting faster every day. So if you fill out that quote form, you'll get in touch with a guy like Heath, our sales manager, or some of the other sales guys that we have along the way, and we'll get a quote out to you right away. We're here to answer any questions you got. So anyway, till next time, keep your smoke thin and blue. It is hot in here. I am done cooking, and I'll see you on the next video.